Friday, May 17th, 2019, at the Department of Consumer Affairs, 1625 North Market Boulevard, Hearing Room South, Room 102, Sacramento, California. I would like to call this meeting to order. I would like to thank the schools and all other members of public who have joined us today. For the sake of time, we'll not be introducing those who have signed in, but we appreciate your presence. And then we'll go to Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask that our colleague Paul Sellers lead us in the pledge. We invite you to stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with us. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just realized Ken's not here. Ken Swenson. No, he's not here yet. Oh, no, I just realized that. Thank you. I'm Tammy Mendoza, current board president. If I could have board members introduce themselves, starting at my far left.
Dr. Carol Mountain, Education Board member.
Good morning, Paul Sellers, Psychiatric Technician member.
Good morning, John Deerking, public member.
Paula Amazola, public member.
Good morning. I'm Bernice Basti Martinez, current vice president of the board and public member.
Kenneth Maxey, public member.
Alita Carpenter, public member.
Cheryl Turner, public member.
Thank you. At this time, if we could have the executive officer please introduce herself and staff.
Sorry, I had to fumble for the on button. Good morning. My name is Elaine Yamaguchi, the board's executive officer. I'm really delighted to introduce a vast number of our staff that we made a special effort to bring folks here since our office is just down the road. So let me see if I can do this correctly. With us is our assistant executive officer, Vicki Lyman, our budget analyst, Vicki Saavedra, our enforcement chief, Candace Rainey, our discipline manager, Jay Prouty, our discipline analyst and filling in as board support, Christine Dano. Of course, our, she's busy. Our really now completely robust nursing education staff, our supervising nursing education consultant, Marie Cardero, our NECs, Jessica Gomez, Faye Silverman, Margarita Valdez, and our newest NEC, Dr. Cindy Fairchild. Our licensing division staff, who's right in the front there. Sorry. All right, I can't see very well today. Our licensing manager, of course, Jen Johnson. Our analysts and program techs, Tony Parker, Gloria Hatcher, Lori Barnes, Lauren Gardner, Gabby Arola, and I believe that's all of them. All right, I got them all. Thank you so much.
Ken?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kenneth L. Swenson, Attorney 3, Counsel of the Board.
Thank you. The Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technician is required to hold public meetings and make policy decisions that protect health and safety and welfare of California consumers. Public meeting agendas are prepared well in advance to the board meeting. Agenda requests for consideration must be clearly set forth in writing. The board requests that all items and supporting documents be included on the agenda to be received in Sacramento headquarters by the first day of the month preceding the month that's scheduled board meeting. In addition, if there are documents that you would like board members to timely review and consider relative to an agenda item, the board asks that you submit 15 copies. and provide the board an electronic version of the document. Please ensure that you redact any student names prior to copying the information. During the meeting today, public comment is welcome on any agenda item when the item is taken up by the board. Under the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, the board may not take any action on issues raised by public comment that are not on the agenda, other than to decide whether to schedule that issue for a future meeting. If any person wishes to address the board, please come forward to the podium when I call for public comment. It is helpful for the record if you would state your name and the name of the organization you represent. However, you may remain anonymous if you wish to do so. Please conduct yourself in a professional manner while making comments and address the comments, direct the comments to the board members and refrain from personal attacks. We have a full agenda today. In order to allow board members sufficient time to conduct its scheduled business, I may limit the time given to each person who wishes to comment, generally 3 minutes. Please understand this is because we want to hear from everyone and give all those who wish to do so a chance to comment. If you wish, it is acceptable for you to simply state that you agree with the previous speaker, or you may make an original statement. If I forget to ask for public comment on an agenda item, it is not because I intend to limit comment. So please raise your hand or come to the podium and I will recognize you. The board appreciates your cooperation and assistance in meeting its legal mandate. I want to thank the board members for the late evening that we had doing and appreciate the dedication to the board and your service to protection of the public. So we are on 10, board meeting minutes, review and approval. So we have the board meeting minutes for February 22nd and April 30th. Is there any discussion by board members or any changes or corrections that need to be done?
Madam Chair, if there are no errors or omissions on the February 22nd, 2019 board meeting minutes, I would move to approve as submitted.
Second.
There's been a motion made by John to approve the February 22nd, 2019 board minutes. If there are no omissions or errors, is there further discussion needed by board? Seeing none, any public comment? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Carol?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paula?
I abstain.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Bernice? I'm a yes.
Yes.
Ken?
Oh, yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Motion carries. Then for April 30th, is there any discussion needed by board or changes that need to be made?
Madam Chair, if there are
Yes.
no other changes or corrections, I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
A second.
Thank you. Is there further discussion needed by the board? Seeing none, public comment? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Carol?
Yes.
Paul?
Abstain.
John?
Yes.
Paula?
I abstain.
Bernice?
Abstain?
I'm a yes. Ken?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. That brings us to the Education Committee report. Ms. Bernice?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Education Committee met on Monday, March 18th, here in Sacramento. There were a number of items that were addressed. All members of the committee, Ken Maxey, Carol Mountain, and myself were present. We had support from the staff. And as the result of that meeting, there are recommendations to the board for your consideration. I will read the motion as each item comes up. First is, oh, and my screen just went down. There you go. To accept the NEC's report and recommendations and recommend to the full board. And this is regarding Stanbridge College, Irvine. I know they're out of order. Okay. I will take it in a different order. Thank you. Let's first do Advanced Medical School of Nursing, Pittsburgh, Vocational Nursing Program, and the motion is the same. Is the NEC available? Jessica Gomez? Good morning. Can you expound upon your recommendation or briefly summarize it?
The recommendation that we have for the board is that we deny the class for Advanced Medical School of Nursing, and we revoke the provisional approval for Advanced Medical School of Nursing and remove the program from the approved list of schools.
Are there questions from the board before I check to see if anyone is present representing the school? Representatives from Advanced Medical School of Nursing, if you're present, would you please, if you wish to, please come forth and speak at the podium. Please identify yourself. And I will remind everyone that the board president said we must limit the time of our comments.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Dr. Pamela Frazier. I'm the
Talk into the mic.
Dr. Pamela Frazier. I am the nursing director of the School of Nursing.
I'm Dr. Ike Maneko, the program administrator.
Do you have comment about the recommendation?
I do. We have not had a class since the first class, and it was a lot of issues with the first class, and I was hired after that to put other things into, to correct some of the things that were wrong during that first class period. A lot of it was around the clinicals and correct hours and issues with the structure of the school, the environment of the school. I think we've made a lot of progress with that, but we have not had another class since that time. We've been working very hard to get the clinical sites, and we've even rededicated some of our clinicals, went back and talked to the clinical sites to make sure that we do. We are still searching for enough OB-PEDS clinical sites. And I don't think the school has been given a chance. With just the one class, we've never admitted any other students. Even after the improvements was put in, we did a lot of work to try to get our pass rate up with the students who had already graduated. And we are working hard to do that. And we would like to have the opportunity, with everything that we've put into place, with the revamping, to show that we can educate vocational nurses to the standard that the board would recommend that we do.
Just want to make sure we're clear. According to our record, you as the new program director, you were approved in March of 2018,
Yes,
and this is 2019?
yes. The last class that graduated was in November of 2017, and there has been no students since that time.
We've noted by the report there are a number of infractions that have not been addressed, and as one infraction was addressed, then there was a new one apparently, or several new ones.
And I've been addressing all of the infractions that have come up, and there's some that we cannot show correction until we have students.
Do any other board members have questions?
I do, Madam Chair. So when you say you've corrected some of these infractions, are you talking about the laptop computers that were not
Yes, we do.
installed? Are you talking about the toilet paper that didn't exist? Are you talking about?
Those also, yes. We have, as far as the toilets, we've closed off one completely, saying that that was not for students. That's in the office area. We've put better signs up directing students to bathrooms. We are keeping supplies in all the time. Like I said, it was no students there, and so supplies were not always where they should be when the inspections happened. Now we are keeping everything supplied at all times. It is an old building, but we have put up more signs directing students away from some of the things that we were not using, some of the areas that's not being used for the school. Laptop computers are there. We did kind of hide them when we're not at the campus because nobody was there. Repair, I can let Dr. Ike expand on the repairs on the ceiling. There was water damage from the rain, which had not been repaired, but my understanding, and Dr. Ike has it, they do have repairmen coming in to fix that.
And you were brought on about a year and a half ago almost?
Yes.
That's correct? But I think there's been at least 2 visits there in the last year and a half, correct me if I'm wrong?
Mhm.
And some of those challenges from the first visit weren't fixed by the second visit. So I'm having a challenge with your role, if you were brought on a year and a half ago,
And
if these things weren't fixed.
I do take responsibility for that. When I was brought on, because there was no students, I did not spend a lot of time there. I was doing it remotely, and things were supposed to be done, and I didn't check, and I will take ownership for that. After the second visit, I have been more involved, going to the school more, and keeping up with what's supposed to be done as far as the environment.
Did you consider at any point between the first visit and second visit to actually call the department and say, hey, look, we need some help. We might need some extension on this. We're actually, did you consider that? Did you try to, did you make any
But
attempts?
like I said, between the first and the second visit, personally, I didn't check personally myself when I thought things were being done. And it wasn't until after the second visit, when I was shown the pictures, that I realized that I hadn't done my job as well as I could have, because I hadn't checked back with Dr. Ike and seeing that everything was being on schedule and being done.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Good morning. I actually have a couple of questions for you. I noticed that your quarter four 2018 pass rate was 27%. And I'm wondering what elements you've put in place to assure that your pass rate will meet the board requirement, because 27% is 52 points below the statewide average.
Yes. And going forward, we have hired a consultant who has very good pass rates. We hired him with some of our past students, and the pass rate we have, even up to 27, is because of his work with them. So that is part of our curriculum now. When the students, before the students graduate, they are registered into an NCLEX review, and it's a personal one-on-one with the coach.
Whose review is that?
That's Felix Levy.
So you're not using a standardized review,
No.
CURST or
not at this
ATI.
time.
Are you implementing any type of standardized testing
We're-
within your curriculum?
we're
And whose
looking
are
at-
you using?
We're using HESI right now, and that's one of the things for the future is bringing that. HESI has a whole review, there's a whole review package that we're looking at. But
When will you decide if you're going to implement that or not?
before the end of this year.
And can you tell me what you've done to increase and create a clinical skills lab or simulation lab or both so that your students are getting adequate experience before they go to their clinical sites?
The skills lab is fully functioned with equipment at this time. At the school, at the previous was a CNA program at the school. That's no longer there. So all the area that was used for the CNA program is now open for skills lab. We have clinical beds, we have all the equipment, we have a full package of medications for the students to be educated on medication paths. For clinical sites, like I said, we went back to our original clinical sites to make sure that they're still open to taking our students. And the other thing is limiting. I know one of our past deficiencies was we were having too many students in clinicals. Now we will be limiting our clinicals to 8 to 10 students, 10 at the max, try to keep it at 8. And we have we have hired one more instructor, and we're looking for other part-time instructors so that our clinical labs, our skill labs, will also have less students in it.
How many beds do you have in your clinical skills lab? And how many mannequins are in those beds?
We have 7 beds, and I think we have, yeah, every bed has a mannequin on it.
Are you using any Junos or an equivalent?
We don't have any simulation mannequins, no.
What is the plan to get simulation mannequins in the future, and are you considering using Juno for your skills?
That is something that I would have to discuss with Dr. It has not been on my agenda at this time, but that is something that we can discuss, that Dr. Ike and I can discuss.
Can I just add very quick? If it's what is required, I'll get it.
What is the percentage of simulation that you plan to use in your curriculum to educate your students in a safe environment?
At this time, we're not using any plan. The only simulation is regular skill simulation. Going forward, I would love to have where we can get some of the OB skills simulation, which I think would improve because of our OB clinical sites, and to have the simulation in the lab with some OB simulation, actual simulation classes, I think would greatly improve our OB and PEDS offerings.
Are any of the instructors that you've hired so far skilled or educated, trained in simulation?
So far, only me.
I have no further questions.
All that's being presented, has this been evidenced and passed to you as NEC?
I have seen the applications for clinical sites, The ones that were submitted this week, one of them did not have signatures from the facility. One of them did not have signatures from the program director. And so I could not look at their clinical placements to see if they had adequate placements because the sites are not approved.
If we're hearing you correctly, what you have received has not changed your recommendation.
Not in the least.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Madam President, the motion still stands.
Hold on, Ken?
I'm curious, you've heard all these things that has occurred over the last year and a half, with or without you. What are you asking for us today?
Personally, I'm asking that the school be given a chance, and originally we were asking to start a class in September, but I would really like to have a delay in that, where we shoot from March of 2020, where I can put everything in place so that when the students start, we're not trying to piecemeal things together, because we are still looking for OB sites and the instructors. And so I just don't feel like the school has been given a chance. And I think from the area that the school is in and the students that would come there, it is very much needed.
Thank you.
So there's a motion and a second because it came out of the Education Committee. Is there further discussion needed by board members? Seeing none, public comment? Okay.
Members of the board, thank you for giving us the chance to respond. Please, I would like to point out, board member, Mr. Maxey, you did say something, one of quick comments, something trivial, but he said lack of toilet or washing papers. Please, just want to inform you that we did have them. They were just not there. I brought out the boxes and showed to them. I would have liked to go through this report. The board, so you know, the meeting that you ordered for us to have with the staff did not happen. I came to Sacramento for the meeting to review the documents submitted, and that meeting was canceled because our DON couldn't come with me. She was sick. And then the executive committee meeting, we did not receive the reports until a few hours to the start of the meeting. I made that known, so I was not able to comment on any issues that were on the report, which some of them are inaccurate. So I'm actually requesting that the board not make any decision based on the executive committee's report because we are not given the chance to address the issues raised. Now, regarding clinical sites, we actually didn't know. The paperwork we submitted to the NEC showed that we had enough clinical sites until we read the report after the last meeting. That's when we found out that she had a communication with our OBMPs and the number of students allowed were reduced. We didn't know that before, till after the fact. If we had known, that wouldn't have been an issue. I was there at the meeting, trying to convince the education committee that I had enough clinical sites. When they had information that I didn't have, showing that I didn't have enough clinical sites. I mean, just imagine the position you put the school in, because we didn't know there were changes. The facility, we didn't hear from the facility that they called, and we were told that the number of students were being reduced because obviously another school was coming there. So the decision that were made without hearing our own side of the issue. Just similarly, the Berkeley site that I didn't even see on this report, I was hoping that would be on the agenda. That's another question we're going to ask later, why it's not on the agenda. The paperwork that we submitted that was supposed to be reviewed, I came to that meeting ready to answer questions on those documents. and those were not brought up. I tried, which probably looking at the way things were set up, to go to my car to get those documents and show them, but unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to do so. If you guys recall the committee, I got up about a couple of times.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman, his time has expired and he's re-litigating issues that were brought before the committee.
Okay, so let me.
And he's
wrap it up.
filibustering, Your Honor.
I'm sorry,
Madam
if I may
Chairman.
wrap up real quick. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that
Okay,
You've been informed of time.
thank you. So,
You have to say
do,
that.
huh?
You tell them, no, you've been informed of time.
You've been informed of time. So we're going to move on. Do board members need further discussion?
And there's
Can I just
comments
make
from
one
us.
comment? There is a typo on the report, and it says the Berkeley campus instead of the Pittsburgh campus in the recommendations.
We can't hear you.
There is an error on the report. It says Berkeley campus instead of the Pittsburgh campus. In the recommendations, it needs to be the Pittsburgh campus.
In all due respect, I believe that was pointed out at one of the Education Committee meetings,
Yes.
and it has not been corrected.
It was not corrected because we don't change these reports after they go to the Education Committee.
Excuse me, please. Can I just make one comment, please? I know my time is up, but just one comment, please. I need to address that we did have a major storm damage. The report shows that the work was going. If you look closely, we see the ladder there. The report, it wasn't ignored, so I just wanted to point that out to the board so that you guys know.
Thank you. What did you say, Ms. Gomez?
We do not make changes from the reports when we take up from the Education Committee back to the board meeting. So the campus name is incorrect on here. It says Berkeley campus in the recommendations, not the Pittsburgh campus, but it is the Pittsburgh campus that we're working with.
Okay. So for the final record, that will be changed.
And I'd point out that the header does indicate that this relates to the Pittsburgh campus.
Yes.
First page.
Okay, thank you. So since there's,
Your mic is not on?
Thank you. Mr. Iquaneco has more than one campus under his leadership? Okay, thank you.
That is correct. Jessica?
At the Education Committee meeting, his request to have the Berkeley campus reconsidered the closure that was done in November. The Education Committee meeting determined at that time that they would not reconsider the closure, that it would remain closed.
okay,
So the answer would be no.
thank you. So no further discussion by board members? Okay, so we will do a roll call vote. Or
Yes, ma'am.
Ken, do I need to ask for public comment again?
Excuse me. That is actually incorrect. The board referred it to the executive committee.
Your Honor, or excuse me, Madam Chairman, the gentleman has used more than enough time and he's out of order. I would recommend we proceed with the vote.
Thank you.
This came from the committee as well. He had sufficient time to make public comment at the committee, and technically, the full board does not need to provide an opportunity for public comment during this proceeding.
Thank you. Did you have a question, Carol? We'll move on to the vote. Carol?
Can you clarify?
So the motion is to accept the NEC report recommendation, and this was recommended from the full board, so it did not need a motion.
From the Education Committee.
It came from, it came from the Education Committee, so it did not need a first and a second. So that, because it did come from the Education Committee, that is a motion in itself.
I support the NEC's report.
Paul?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bernice?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Ken?
Yes.
Alita,
Yes.
Carol?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Thank you. Bernice?
Thank you. The next is about a discussion and possible action to make recommendations to the board regarding the forfeiture of approval of a program. And this is regarding the Advanced Medical School of Nursing, Berkeley, the Vocational Nursing Program. And the NEC is Jessica Gomez. She presented her report. The owner of the school did not agree with the report. As a result of committee deliberation and discussion and what was presented, a motion to accept the NEC's report and recommendations, along with a recommend that those recommendations go to the full board. Any questions or comments? Public comment.
Is there any public comment? Seeing none. Do we have, the motion is to accept the NEC report?
To accept the recommendations of the NEC. This is regarding, there was a request to reconsider the removal of the school from the list.
Oh, okay. So the motion, it came from the Education Committee to accept the NEC's report and recommendation. Is there any further discussion needed by board? Seeing none. I saw no public comment. So we'll do a roll call vote. Carol?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bernice?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Ken?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries. It was unanimous.
Our meeting continued, and we discussed recommendations that would be made to the board regarding approval of ongoing admissions for full-time classes. We'll initially start with Stanbridge College, Irvine, and our lead nursing consultant is here, Marie.
And here. Good morning.
Good morning. Do you have any further comments or anything else you wish the board to know about Stanbridge College?
No, but I believe that they did not come before the Education Committee. Is that what you're referring to? They were removed from the agenda.
Correct.
Okay. Nothing at this time.
So there was no recommendation and there was no motion because this was removed from the agenda.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. That pretty much constitutes the end of our report, unless there are other questions for the Education Committee. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. So then it brings us to reconsideration of provisional approval. Oh, did we? Oops. So, okay. I'm on 12. So I'm a little slow today. So we're on Education Division, report recommendations and possible actions regarding vocational nursing and psychiatric technicians program. Marie?
So I believe the board has my report. Are there any questions regarding the report? Oh, yay, good. Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you. So that brings us to 12B, reconsideration of provisional approval. Angelus Institute, Miss Beth DeYoung.
Faye's going to cover that.
Oh, Faye's going to cover that? Okay. Thank you. Faye, we've got your report, or Beth's report. Do board members have any questions for our NEC? Seeing none, is there a representative from the school? And if we could have you state your name and whether or not you agree with the NEC's recommendation?
My name is John Scott Coward. I'm an assistant to the director in the education of the vocational nurses. I also have Miss Mary Halverson up here. First of all, before I agree with what the NEC has recommended, I'd like to thank Beth and also Faye for their work here. And our director, unfortunately, is in the hospital and could not be here today, so she apologizes for not being at the meeting today. But we do agree with what the NEC has recommended.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions for the representative? Seeing none. Is there a motion possibly?
Madam President, I move that we accept the recommendations of the NEC and that they be enacted as by the record.
Second it.
So there was a motion and a second. Motion made by Bernice, second by Ken, to accept the recommendation from the NEC and to be enacted on?
To be acted upon as in the record. Enacted just takes care of all of it. It's another verb.
Any further questions or discussion by the board needed? Seeing none, any public comment? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Carol?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bernice?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Ken?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you. That brings us to 12C. Request to admit students by programs on provisional approval. We will start with Institute of Technology Clovis and Miss Margarita Valdez.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. The board has got your report. Do board members have any questions for the NEC?
And I could give some clarification. They were put on provisional status for 2 years. During that time, this program had been approved for 3 starts, and their starts were usually March, July, and November. During the time they were on provisional, one of the classes was denied, which is now the one they're saying for May. So it's 3 classes. They're trying to get back to their schedule, so that's why maybe the enrollment table didn't quite match what the dates were. They're trying to start the July class, so that's the replacement of the September, which I could have taken to August if they had wanted to keep it in that, but they're trying to get back to their schedule. This school has done tremendous effort in improving their state board passing, and if you looked at their NCLEX, you would see that they're inching up everything they put into place in March of 2017, and again made some additional actions to assist, are being evaluated, and it does appear that they are being a positive result. So that's why I recommended the approval of these two classes.
Thank you. Do board members have questions?
You have a representative.
Seeing any? Hi. If you could state your name and title, and if whether or not you agree with the NEC's recommendation, it would be appreciated.
Thank you. I'm Paula Richards. I'm the Director of Nursing, Institute of Technology, Clovis. I agree with the NEC's report.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions for the representative?
Just an observation, this particular school and this particular director always brings along leadership from the institution. It's not always that institutions have time to bring a president or a head or an owner, and we see the president in the audience.
I like to bring my campus president to these meetings so that he has a better understanding. When I say this is what we need, he's right there and very, very supportive. And so yes, Mr. Ron Gardner, our campus president, is here representing not only the Clovis campus, but also the Institute of Technology, as we have two campuses that are reporting now.
Thank you. Is there further discussion needed by board members? John?
I would move to accept the NEC's report regarding the Institute of Technology Clovis and adopt the recommendations.
Second.
Thank you. It was moved by John, seconded by Bernice, to accept the NEC's recommendation regarding the Institute of Technology Campus Clovis and adopt the recommendations. Is there further discussion by board needed? Seeing none, is there public comment? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Carol?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bernice?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Ken?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
It was unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to 12C2, Institute Technology Modesto. Thank you. The board members received the report and reviewed it. Do board members have any questions for the NECs? Seeing none, if you'd like to state your name and your title and whether or not you agree with the NEC's recommendation.
My name is Paula Richards. I am the previous director of nursing for the Modesto campus as well. I was the one that submitted the request to the NEC. I would also, and I agree with the NEC's report. I also would like to introduce the new director of nursing for the Modesto campus. And I am acting as her mentor now so that she can continue the good work that we've done to increase our pass rates.
Good morning. My name is Tisha LaCouve, and I'm the new Director of Nursing and the Modesto campus.
Nice to meet you.
And taller than Paula. And I do accept the NEC report.
Do board members have any questions for the representative?
Just another observation. Mentoring of new program leadership is very important. And as chair of the Education Committee, I would encourage others to reach out and mentor other directors so that they can start to model and do some of the things that we see that are so outstanding in this particular site. We desperately need lots of well-prepared LVNs. And so the more programs that we have that are functioning like these two would be a great addition.
Thank you.
Thank you. So seeing none,
I think I'm going to stay here.
the motion was made by John. Oh, no, there was no motion yet. I'm ahead of the game. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
So the recommended language would be to accept the report and approve the recommendations of staff.
Who moved it?
Carol.
Oh, so soft. And that would be to accept the NEC's report and recommendation. So it was moved by Carol, second by Alita. Is there any further questions or discussion by board members needed? Seeing none. Public comment? Seeing none. We'll do a roll call vote. Carol?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bernice?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Ken?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Cheryl? Yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Integrity College of Health.
I'm going to stay here.
Miss Jessica?
Okay, I'll go to the back. No problem. I'll take it easy.
Thank you, Jessica. We've received the report and reviewed it. Do board members have any questions for Jessica? Seeing none, I see there's representative from the school. If you'd like to state your name and title and whether or not you agree with the recommendations.
Good morning, distinguished board members. My name is Melody Cochran. We hail from Pasadena, California. I am accompanied this morning with my assistant director, Director of Education, Ms. Vela Marcip, and we are pleased to be here, and we do agree with the NEC's recommendation this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions for the representative? Seeing none.
Can I say something just really quickly?
Yes.
I would like to, number one, just to say personally, me and my mom, B. Martin, started this college in 2007, our first VN class. And B. Martin thinks that nurses can change the world. So we've worked so hard for so many years with our school. And Jessica has worked with us for so many years. And to have my mom fall ill last year, and then we took this hit, and now we're standing back up. And I'm sorry, but I just wanted to thank Jessica and the board for standing with us and working with us, because we have graduated so many wonderful VNs, and us being nurses that started this program. we just started, we started this program to produce nurses, and we're very serious at a strong foundation in nursing. So without this class, we probably wouldn't have stayed open. So I'm sorry, I didn't know I would be this emotional. But I do want to say thank you so much, and we'll continue to provide the excellent education for nurses. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion possibly?
Yes, I'll make a motion. I move that we accept the report regarding the Integrity College of Health and adopt the recommendations of the NEC.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second to adopt the NEC's report and recommendations. Is there further discussion needed by board members? Seeing none, public comment? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Carol?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bernice?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Ken?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll go on to Pasadena City College. Faye Silverman? Thank you, Faye. We've received the report and reviewed it. Do board members have any questions for our NEC? Seeing none, we have representatives from the school. If you'd state your name and title and whether or not you agree with the NEC's recommendation.
My name is Carla Christensen. I'm the director for Pasadena City College LVN program, and this is Donna Nielsen, my assistant director, and we agree with the recommendations of our NEC.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions for the NEC or the representatives? Seeing none, do we have a motion possibly?
I would move to accept the NEC's recommendations regarding Pasadena City College and adopt the recommendations.
Second.
So it was moved by John, seconded by Cheryl to move the report and the recommendation, accept the report and the recommendations of the NEC's for the Pasadena City College. Is there further discussion by the board? Seeing none, public comment? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Carol?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bernice?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Ken?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. We'll move on to Shasta Community College. Margarita Valdez. Thank you. We've received the report and recommendations. Do board members have any questions for the NEC? Seeing none. I see we have representatives from the school. If you would state your name and title and whether or not you agree with the NEC's recommendations.
Good morning. Nancy Skaggs, Program Director. My fabulous teaching partner, Elaine Carmina. We do agree with the recommendation from our NEC and do want to extend our sincere thanks and appreciation to Ms. Valdez for her consistent guidance along this long journey.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment. It's tremendous pleasure when you work with the directors and they put so much effort and you can see the result. They're talking among themselves, and yesterday at the directors forum, several of my directors came up and said, oh, we're beginning to see that going to education and provisional is not necessarily a bad thing. I went, correct. You have time to work with us, you have time to regroup, you have time to put in all the efforts. So it's a pleasure to us when we see the success of the schools.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions for the representative from the school?
Move to
Seeing-
accept the NEC's report.
Second.
For clarification, does the motion include adoption of the recommendations?
Yes.
So it was moved by Alita and seconded by Carol to accept the NEC's recommendation and report. Further discussion needed by board members? Seeing none. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Carol?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bernice?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Ken?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
You.
Oh, we're moving right along. We'll move on to the executive officer's report. Elaine?
Excuse me. Thank you very much, Madam President. Board members, you received my written report. I'm not going to go through every single point. I'm going to cover just the big highlights. First, of course, we're so delighted to be live on Facebook and Twitter. Our AEO has been doing a terrific job finding really interesting material to post every day, at least once a day. Of course, yesterday or the day before was the nurse who wanted to set a world record for the marathon in nurse outfit, and she was denied because she was wearing scrubs, not the white skirt. I thought that was a terrific article. But we also wanted to make sure you joined us in a slightly belated appreciation week of nurses. We put together some materials and bookmarks, which we left for all the board members. I think we did a terrific job on the materials, but it's just a very small token of our great appreciation and our admiration for the nurses. And of course, happy belated birthday to Florence Nightingale. Our staff went to a licensing fair at West Hills Community College District, and our staff met with a number of prospective students, and I'm not too shy to say that our room and BRNs were amongst the busiest. Our staff had a lot of really great conversations with prospective licensees. We hope this is the first of many such licensing fairs and work at, clusters of colleges and career groups. So, and we produced, of course, this banner, which we hope we bring in pretty much everywhere with us from here on. We've been doing a lot of outreach and a lot of communications, but I'm afraid that we had a little bit of a setback. As everyone knows, the American Disabilities Act, which passed decades ago, really, we were informed a couple of months ago that as of July 1, all state communications must be ADA accessible, completely compliant. And that did include, of course, our website, and it'll include all of our subsequent official correspondence and communications, including, by the way, our emails. It's a small setback. It takes a good amount of time to reformat and make all the documents and all the materials accessible, and it's especially difficult for things with forms and tables. And as anybody who've looked at our website knows, that's a lot of what's on it. So we've spent a few staff members to get training on that, and we're going to be training more of our team to convert all our stuff. But in the meantime, we've taken down, or in the process of taking down, all the material on our page that is not completely accessible. And so we'll be working on pulling everything back together. Once we're able to do it, it'll be in the highest need priority. Unfortunately, this also means if somebody needs a form, they're going to have to email or call the board so that we can send them the actual form. And it's going to move us back in terms of our processing time a little bit. But I think not too far future will be better than ever. And again, accessibility is an important thing. We want to be completely compliant. So in terms of, that's, will there be any questions on communications yet? And let me move into the overall legislative, our legislative agenda. First of all, our response to our sunset legislation, AB 1229, and the enforcement monitor's recommendations. As the board knows, our next deliverable is July 1, and that charts, of course, our implementation of all the monitor's 58 recommendations. I'm very, very pleased to tell you that with this report, we will be showing that we have at least partially implemented every single item. Some of them we've done with some modifications, but all of which has been, I think, very well accepted, very reasonable changes. I think for the period we're reporting now, between January 1st of this year and now, I think the most significant point of progress right now is the board's continuing education audit program. That's recommendations 3, 4, and 33. BVNPT will commence a new CE audit starting June 1. And we're going to start fairly modestly, but we've done a great deal of research and analysis and a lot of training and discussion and how to make this program work comprehensively. So it's involved the licensing staff, the administration staff, our IT work, and our enforcement staff, and we've consulted with our education group as well. So we're very optimistic. We think this is going to provide that extra check for our licensees, and it's not going to be, I think, an egregious, because most of our licensees are complying anyway, I think. So we'll be reporting back on that at our August meeting. We should be able to show you a few months worth of responses by that point. Now, recommendation 47, which was one of the ones we've been having, I think, a lot of pause for thought on how best to implement that. It's a little awkward. It basically calls for an interagency task force to develop a 360 evaluation process for the executive officer, which in other words means I'm not allowed to go anywhere near that. So our AEO, of course, has worked with Board Bureau Services at the department to come up with a plan to do so. At this point, their operative plan is to develop and launch a survey which will go to board members, stakeholders, the department, agency, legislature, and governor's office. So they haven't, of course, told me anything about like when that would happen or what's going to be on the test, but we have a very high level of optimism that I think we'll find a very good mechanism, which we hope will be something that we can bring forward for future, hopefully annual evaluations for the board's executive officer. One recommendation also that gave us a great deal of thinking on how best to implement, recommendation 37 calls for BVNPT to seek legislation to sunset language in AB 1229 that established some reporting requirements for the meetings that AB 1229 requires us to have with the Division of Investigation. Basically, it said in the recommendation that we should be just seeking legislation to repeal it, but at this point, the legislation itself self-repeals and sunsets on January 1, so it didn't seem feasible, efficient to try and make a separate legislative effort on that thing. We'll just let it sunset on the natural. We certainly will still be reporting and meeting with the Division of Investigations. So we're planning to just say that this is at least partially implemented, if not completely implemented. But also, finally, our sunset legislation required us to work with the Organizational Change Management Office within DCA to look at our licensing business practices. We actually added in our administrative support services and our education programs as well. OCM has issued its final report for the licensing division. It was a long, long process. It involved team meetings, individual meetings. They mapped out every single business process step by step by step, and they analyzed, are there places where we can make things more efficient? We can, take out things that are obsolete, that we can update things with more and better technology. So at this point, as I said, we just received the final report, and our AEO and the licensing manager are analyzing that report. They'll be working with the team to implement and roll out all the recommendations that we think can be done quickly. A lot of them do revolve around, unfortunately, changes to Breeze, which takes a great amount of time, and regulatory updates, which takes a lot of time. So we're going to look for the things that we can implement right away, just internally, and then we'll start setting forth our plans to update Breeze and to work with our regulations. And now that leads directly into, of course, our legislative agenda. And as the legislative committee had only been able to meet about our AB 2138 regulations, and it is, of course, legislative season. We wanted to make sure that the board did know what was going on and to call a couple of bills to your attention. I included a report from the department listing out all of the DCA relevant bills that are currently in the process, where they are, and a very brief summary. Right now, of course, nothing is directly impacting BVNPT. There is a number of things that are moving, and I think the board knows that at this point we're edging up on the House of Origin deadline. Everything needs to be out of its first house by the end of this month, and then of course most of the attention will be paid to the budget process. So at this point, we're a little bit not as active as we might have been. The board's language about the default decision delegation was provided to the Senate Committee on Business Professions and Economic Development for inclusion in an omnibus bill, but unfortunately, one of the committee members did object, so it's not going to be continuing in that vehicle. And of course, our school fee legislation is also still pending. We're talking to a number of authors. So even though we're slightly late in the game, there are still opportunities for this year, but there's more opportunities and possibly better opportunities to start fresh in 2020. And as I say, there's a number of ways, and none of which are really better than the other, and probably most of them have the same yield, since, as I think the board will recall, we spoke in terms of the fee legislation, we spoke mostly of not really making that, implementing that until probably July 1 of 2021. And so consequently, if we're not able to get a bill through in 2019 with that extended period for implementation, if we do it next year, it just has a slightly shorter period for the schools. But since we're doing, I think, a great deal of outreach and communications with these programs, everybody knows that at least the possibility of such legislation is coming. We've shared our draft schedules with them so they have an idea of what we're looking at in terms of the ballpark fees for each segment. So in a way, having the bill actually moving right now, not having that bill is disappointing. But the fact is that we're doing a great deal of outreach, I think, and planning, so that once we do have a vehicle in motion, we should be able to move quite expeditiously, I think. And finally, our regulatory packages about exam passage requirements and to implement our total fee policy that took effect this year are moving forward. Now, I did want to bring a couple of bills especially to the board's attention, one of which is, excuse me while I flip some pages, one of them which is AB 613 in your packet by Mr. Lowe. This is a really interesting bill, and I did want to see if I wanted to recommend for the board's discussion and possible action on this bill. This bill allows boards to no more than once every 4 years to increase its existing fees by an amount that's not exceeding the consumer price index for the previous 4 years. I think the thought here is very clever, and I think would provide the boards with I think a fairly helpful tool. I don't know that BVNPT would be using this every 4 years, but certainly it provides us with an alternative measure, a way to look at our revenue stream, without having to embark on the long process of statutory or regulatory action. As I said, this would be allowing us to propose to the department director a request for a fee increase, as long as it's authorized in statute and regulations. So for us, in particular, since our current fee structure sets a range, at some point after the enactment of this bill, if we were able to show that there's the need, and this isn't just our ability to push more money into our coffers, we would submit a proposal to the director, who would evaluate it, and if approved, that fee increase would go into effect. As I said, this is a great cost saving and time saving measure for the board. So I think that this would be something that we would want to support if the board does want to take action on this bill.
Sure. Madam EO, are you asking for a vote at this time? Are you asking, what are you asking for? Because I just want to point out, we do have a board committee structure, and we do have a legislation regulations committee. And so while this sounds like a great bill, this bill has not been brought before the committee yet for consideration and discussion about the details, the fine line, points contained within it. So I would hope that it would be brought to the committee, and then it would be referred to the board.
Ms. Turner, thank you for the question, and I do have to say that, in a sense, yes, you're correct. But as I was saying, the board committee, and actually, let me backtrack. My understanding from the executive committee discussions of a month or so ago was that we would be postponing or holding off on committee meetings until we had finalized a committee structure, which we were supposed to have done, but we ran out of time this past Wednesday. So barring that, I felt that given the pressing, ticking clock of the legislative calendar, in order for us to be relevant, it would be simpler and more effective to just bring this before the full board at this time, because at this point, our best case scenario is if the legislative committee were to set a meeting, it would probably be, I would think, July, and the legislative calendar ends in August, so it would be hard to have a position advanced and advocated at that point. So as I said, I felt like in the interest of timing in the legislative calendar, it would be more effective for the board to express its opinion now. So we felt that, and especially since this is, I think, a very straightforward bill, that we would just put it before the full board. Now, the board, of course, doesn't have to make a motion, and the board could also table this and refer it to a committee meeting, and then, the executive committee could direct the committee to meet and discuss. And then also, of course, there's another bill that I wanted to call to your attention as well. So as always, it is, of course, the pleasure of the board of how to act on this. But beyond that, is essential, of course, that the board know about these bills, and that there are some very important things that would, I think, benefit the board by advocating them.
Not only did it not go through the committee, but we don't have the text of the bill. So we have an analysis, which is basically somebody else's review, I don't know who.
Mine, actually.
And typically, when I'm involved in making recommendations, I like to read the text of the bill line by line to see if there's anything contained within that bill that I might not have anticipated. I mean, you can look at the title of the bill and you can say, oh, the title's just like with the ballot initiative. You could look at the title, oh, this is good for schools and housing or whatever, but when you read through it line by line, you might find something in there that you object to. Even though the bill overall is a great bill, or the ballot is a great ballot initiative. So I would at least like the opportunity to review the text of the proposed bill before we're asked to vote on it. But it's
Elaine,
up to the board.
I have it with me.
Okay. Do you have an?
But Elaine,
Yes.
when did you get the bill? And why was it not given to the Ledge Committee when they met last? Because it looks like it was introduced on February 14th.
As
So
I said,
at that point, it could have
Right.
had time to be given to the Ledge Committee and they could have made recommendations on it.
but we were also directed that the committees were not meeting. It only-
Madam President, if I recall correctly, the discussion about meeting of committees did not occur at that time. February 14th was actually in the time of our February board meeting.
Right, but we talked about this in the March executive meeting, which was when we started reviewing all the legislative information. So,
But the
If you-
meetings that were already set up by those committees were to take place.
no, they weren't, actually, that one hadn't been scheduled at all. But when we did schedule a legislative meeting, we were directed to specify the AB 2138. But look, if the board would like to table this and set a meeting, that is absolutely the board's purview to do so. But as I said, it was important to us to make sure that the board was aware that this was moving.
If I may, we will be meeting to discuss committees. I suggest that the board makes we can go two ways. Submit these to the legislative committee to review and make recommendations at the committee meeting. And that's one option, or a second option would be to submit the full bills to the full board, and the board make a decision at that committee meeting that we're having. And we're hoping to have that committee meeting in June.
July. Board meeting. Mid to end of, mid-June to beginning of July. Somewhere in there.
I think it's-
Either of those two makes a lot of sense.
How do the other board members feel?
Madam President, just listening and analyzing, I heard that there is some need for expediency, there's some urgency. And then unless I misunderstood, I heard it said June, July would be just fine. We're in May. This is kind of mid-May, so to speak, plus a couple of days.
Yes.
I move that this and other urgent legislation potentials be moved to the legislative committee, and the committee be asked to meet between now and the first weeks of June. Why? Rationale, and I know there's no second yet. If the board is going to have a special meeting mid-June or definitely before July to address committee structure and other elements or items that might be on the agenda, we would have a report, or should have a report, from the Legislative Committee with recommendations that would be included in that agenda. We can't change the calendars of the legislature. And if we are interested in supporting or not supporting or making comment about any legislation, we have to do it within the timeframes.
I have a question. Has this bill passed the House of Origin?
Yes, it has.
So time really is of the essence.
Right.
I'm afraid so. It's currently gone to it. It is in the Senate. It has not been calendared for hearing in its first policy committee, but I would assume that the first committee meeting, when they move past budget and into this, so that could very well be mid-July.
Yeah.
And does it need to go to a fiscal committee?
Yes, it
As
does.
well as policy? Thank you. I would second
Alita,
Dr. Baste Martinez's motion.
Alita, question for you. So would you say that we have until mid-July to make support this bill? Is that what you're thinking?
No, in general, when a bill is referred to a policy committee, they look at the content of it. And it's likely, since this bill has already passed the House of Origin, now that it's in the Senate, it's going to be hitting the policy committee anytime. So it would be incumbent upon us to state a position if we're going to. To your question?
And actually, if I could supplement what Ms. Carpenter said, generally speaking, if you want to have your position and comments included in the committee's analysis, tends to be about a 3 to 5 week gap where you need to file that. So in other words, if we miss the policy committee's discussion, we're still, able to file an opinion before Assembly Appropriations, but at that point, they do not talk about the merits of the bill. They talk about, is this something that is fiscally responsible for the state? But it would be discussed and on the Senate floor. So
we could have the special meeting of the Leg Committee. It's only a 2-committee meeting group.
Certainly.
Right away.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Probably do it now if you wanted.
If I have the text of the bill and Mr. Durkin is interested in reviewing it right now.
Well, not right now, but upon adjournment, if you wanted to. So if you're not flying out right away, why not?
Is there any further discussion? There's a motion and a second. Motion made by Bernice, second by Alita, for this and other urgent legislation.
Potentially urgent.
Potentially urgent legislation moved to the Legislative Committee, and the committee asked to meet between now and the first weeks of June.
Second. Oh, you want to second it?
It's been seconded.
I already did.
So is there further discussion needed? Seeing none, public comment? Seeing none, we'll do roll call vote. Carol? Paul?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Bernice?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Ken?
Yes.
Alita?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
In that case, in the second bill, I will be very, very brief. Although, ironically, this bill does, I think, have a few tendrils that the board's definitely going to hear about right now, but it also would really impact our ability to meet expeditiously. SB 53 would amend the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act by requiring 2-member advisory committees of a state body to hold open public meetings if at least one member of the advisory committee is a member of the larger board. That means that we would no longer be able to run 2-member advisory committees without having a publicly announced, noticed, and open meeting. This is a hard one for me, by the way. As somebody who absolutely supports good government and transparency and accountability, I think, yeah, we should be doing everything out in the open, under public scrutiny, with everyone allowed to come in and comment if they will. Now, operationally speaking, as your executive officer, this creates, I think, a really interesting challenge, I think, for us to be able to field. With 9 committees, this essentially, right now, we have 2 committees that meet publicly, education and strategic outreach. If we have all 9 committees that we currently have on our list, that would, and assuming a quarterly meeting of each one, that basically means we field 36 additional open meetings. And logistically, this makes things a little difficult and a little expensive for us. I think we looked at a few different scenarios. And so again, this bill is, like I said, this is a problematic bill for me personally. And that I would expect that the board would really want to have a very engaged conversation. And I don't know what's going to happen with this bill. It's been run through the process a number of times. It was approved through the legislature twice and vetoed twice by Governor Brown. I actually expect it to be approved by the legislature, but I don't know whether or not Governor Newsom feels the same way as Governor Brown on this topic. So this does have an urgency clause, which means that it is going to take effect immediately. I think that we would experience quite a large fiscal impact. I think basically the Senate Fiscal Committee kind of estimated that each entity, each board or bureau would probably incur an additional cost of somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000 a year. That's about, I kind of monkeyed with a few numbers, and our budget analyst helped me. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20% of our overall operating budget, just the general budget. You know, it would definitely create some ripples in our structure, and especially if we're not able to get that second fee structure implemented soon. So, like I said, this is a problematic bill for us, and pending the discussion with the committee and then the board, I would actually recommend that we would go on record as opposing this bill. So, but I'd be delighted to have any conversation now, but then a longer conversation with the committee.
Well, Madam President, it appears when we said, I believe the motion that just passed was inclusive of all potential urgent legislation.
It was, Madam Vice President, but I did want to make sure that the board was aware of this right now. So I just wanted to give a thumbnail sketch of what was on the table.
Finishing my statement.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Therefore, this one, if we can get the full bill before the legislative committee, we, as part of the executive committee, urge you to meet sooner than later.
I can do that too.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So and that, the last part of our report, as the board roll call from February, we received a request to address the board from Carrie Wabrew, who's the regional dean of Concord Schools, to talk about professional identity in the nurses. So we've asked Ms. Wabrew to come ahead and, you know,
Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Nice.
This is nice.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I do.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Uh,
It is still morning.
Oh, maybe I should just hold this. Ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Vocational Nurses and Psychiatric Technicians, thank you for allowing me to present to you this morning. I come to you to share with you that in September of 2018, I worked alongside 50 other nurses that came together to work on the professional identity formation of what it is to be a nurse. And that included national leaders representing, like from the American Nurses Association, the National Councils, the Board of Nursing, the National Leagues for Nursing, and also other boards of nursing regulation just like this. And I was one of those nurses as well. Just get a breath here. So you might want to know, well, what is professional identity formation? And what that is a sense of oneself that is influenced by the characteristics, norms, and values of the nursing discipline, which results in the individual thinking, acting, and feeling like a nurse. What the mission is that we hope to enhance the effectiveness of nursing practice, education, and regulation through an understanding of fostering professional identity formation. So you might be saying, well, what does that really mean? And I would say, first of all, think about teamwork. Current research points to the need to intentionally address what identity formation is, how it occurs both in the education and practice settings. So as I was doing a bit of research about this myself, something that I found to be interesting in development of nurses is that practical nurses, and ironically, you happen to be a practical and vocational nursing board, that there happens to be a large number of disciplinary actions that occur disproportionately across the nation. And this occurs because perhaps they don't understand what it is to be a professional nurse. So what we do know is that having an identity and the identity and psychological that well-being are linked. So that what that means is if you have a happy nurse, you have a good outcome. So individuals who define their professional priorities more broadly and realistically seem much better placed to draw satisfaction from their role of promotion of self-care and self-reflection, self-management, resilience, honesty, and compassion. The development of moral and ethical courage, respect and civility, and a commitment to excellence, innovation, and presence. So in a building of awareness of self as a person and a member of the profession. So, as you know, the board, our number one reason for being in function is to protect the public, right? And as I shared with you, and Elaine, when we were at the director's forum yesterday, you had shared with me about a third of the budget you estimated to be going to fund enforcement or disciplinary actions. So some of the things that we think about would be how could maybe education do better and how could we maybe collaborate together better to, on the education side, not even get into that place in the first place. Because as nurses, that's really our fundamental thing that we want to do, is prevent these things before they even get to that place in the first place, right? Because when we spend our resources, those resources are lost. And not only that, it impacts patient safety. And we care about our patients and their safety. And we owe an obligation to ourselves, as we owe to others, ethically, and an obligation to stay that way. So is it all about outcomes? Is it all about money? Why do people do what they do? We need to practice the language that we need to use. I shared with you a tree of impact, and what that is a representation of is, as the 50 of us met, we came up with various words that we used, and there was a artist from Hallmark that put that together as our words, the 50 of us, and put that together as a visual representation of what it was to be a nurse. And if you think about these seeds of what makes a nurse and what cultivates a nurse, that starts well before that tree ever becomes, right? I think about where my beginnings of a nurse really began, and a long time ago, I knew that I wanted to be a nurse. Spending time with my grandmother and really looking up to her and understanding what that was. The admiration I had for her as I spent time with her, and hearing people relate to the stories of the way that she impacted their lives. And I thought of, wouldn't I want to be that kind of person? And she fostered that in me, as well as other nurses, and I wanted to be that kind of nurturer. But to be that kind of nurturer, you also have to take care of yourself. And we have to also be supportive in the environments around us. So another thing that I want to put in there is that part of the rite of passage that you might recall Florence Nightingale, and she's the founder of modern nursing. And there's a pledge that we all say in that at a pinning ceremony. And that has been around for over 100 years. And just a few excerpts from that vow that we take as we come into nursing are that we will abstain from whatever is deleterious and mischievous, and shall not take or knowingly administer any harmful drug, and that we shall do all in our power to maintain and elevate the standard of my profession, and will hold in my confidence all personal matters committed to my keeping, and all family affairs coming to my knowledge in the practice of my calling. I shall be loyal to my work and devoted towards the welfare of those committed to my care. I take those words seriously, as I believe nurses do. What we have found works is to be intentional in our education of nurses, to decrease their role stress, to foster a sense of belonging and resilience, and engage in nursing-related paid work, and to work on their self-concept. The goal of professionalism in nursing is to enable nurses to flourish through participation in a transformational process that aspires towards professional ideals that seeks the highest good for care recipients, community, and themselves. So what I ask is that we continue to collaborate with education, that you would continue to collaborate with us as educational programs to help us to be successful. Work with us to give us information needed to be able to do our job. Support rulemaking, which allows us to be successful for education of future nurses. And I wanted to bring awareness to that this conversation is occurring. And also to support efforts regarding professional identity formation. Also, we have put together a survey that comes out of Duke University, and you'll probably be hearing about that soon because we have David Benton from the National Councils of Board of Nursing that may have already reached out to this board, and he's going to be asking for your assistance to help disseminate that so that we can get information from all levels of nursing practice. So we ask for your assistance in helping with dissemination of that so we can continue our efforts in better understanding how we continue to help in this endeavor. So that's what I wanted to share with you today.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions or comments for the presenter?
May we feel free to share this on our Facebook page?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. The psychiatric technicians have a psychiatric technician professional organizations. Do you have any outreach or contacts or places I might send them to get further information on?
Yes, Dr. Nelda Godfrey out of the University of Kansas.
After this,
Yeah.
please give me the information.
Yes.
Okay, yes, thank you very much. I support this.
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for the information that you share here today. I'm wondering if there's going to be a like a educational piece that can be easily shared with associations and the schools. Is that something that?
That's actually myself and Kristen Pretty. She's another nurse on this steering committee that we're working on a, if you call it like an elevator speech. And yes is the answer to that. So you can either reach out to myself, which I have cards that I could give you, okay?
Thank you.
After this, if you'd like, or Dr. Godfrey, so either or would be accessible to contact, because we'd love to be doing that, and that's why we've made ourselves accessible and to bring the awareness of this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So at this time, we'll take a 15-minute break. So we'll be back at 11:05. Thank you.
Actually, if I may. Coming back to order, if everyone would take their seats, please.
Maybe it's Ken. Music. We heard music. Probably Ken. Okay, we're coming back from a short break. We're going to start with the executive committee report. I want to thank Carrie for the presentation. Oh, she disappeared already. She was quick. So the committee report for the executive committee, we're going to postpone the discussion on the committee structure and the procedures manual, including the salary per diem, until mid-June, beginning of July, at a special board meeting. We're also going to have some enforcement training and the report from the Ledge Committee at that point. We'll put all that together in the special board meeting. As far as strategic planning, we had a productive work day on Wednesday. Thank you for the board members and the public who attended. The next steps for that is Solid will develop our draft plan, and it'll go out to the board members, and we'll bring it back for discussion and complete review at the August board meeting. Our committee reports, and we had suggested to hold off on committees until we've discussed the committee structure, but we are going to have the Ledge Committee meet and give us a report then, and then in August, hopefully we'll have our, or at the special board meeting, we'll have our committee structure done and dates, the committee's meeting dates before the August board meeting. And then I know that in the executive committee, Elaine had informed us about our school fee bill. We had a potential person who was going to present at the legislature, but apparently since then, they're in future discussions with other people to walk the bill. And Elaine, if you could turn that over to the Ledge Committee to work through, I think that would be good.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then I believe that was, and then they told us about the CE audit process. I'm glad that we're going to get that started. It's been a long time. Outside of that, we've had no other. Bernice, is there something you'd like to add?
No, ma'am.
And then, so that would be the executive committee report. And we will go on to licensing.
Good morning. I have submitted the licensing division report. There are a couple things I want to touch on, and I have one late breaking news item for you that I just added to the report this morning. A couple of things to touch on with the CE audit. The letters are actually printed on May 15th. The 15th of the month is when Breeze puts out those letters. They're going to be actually put into the mail on June 3rd because that is a Monday. Excuse me. The number of letters that is going out, we have 116 VN letters and 10 PT letters. That is 2.5% of our licensing population for the renewal period or for the audit period. What we decided to do is we need to look at the first 6 months of the CE audit and make sure that we have all the resources in place to be successful in our CE audit. So you will have an accounting at each board meeting of where we stand on the CE audit, and there will be a point when I'm going to ask you if you'd like us to increase the numbers. And again, that'll be based on the resources that we have available, basically in our licensing division to support the CE audit. The staffing update, you see the bright, shiny faces behind me. They're doing a fabulous job. It's great to know that we have one vacancy in the licensing division, and that would be at our front counter. Leanna and Jen already had the interviews, and I believe they submitted some names to HR to do the MQ checks. So that's amazing. The people behind me, they're fabulous. They're all friendly. It's amazing. They're just doing a great job. I told them I'd tell them the really good things about them too. I'm going to save licensing statistics until the end. The DOJ fingerprints, that was an issue that we had talked about at the executive committee and at the board meetings, where we had 3,339 licensees that did not have DOJ fingerprint records. So we sent out the letters on actually they went out December 28th. that absolutely impacted our calls that came in the month of January. And you'll see that in the statistics in the executive summary. We had a 75% compliance rate, which is actually very good for something like that. We had 800 that didn't comply, and of that, 213 were actually letters that came back to us as return to sender, no forwarding address. What we did with those 213 letters is we turned them over to the enforcement division, and if there's an opportunity to reach out and see if those people will come in compliance, they will. If not, they will be turned over to our cite and fine desk for further follow-up. Again, that was a great return on our investment. The thing to note is that if we do not have their fingerprint results, they will not be allowed to renew and Breeze. They cannot move forward. So we do have a safety guard in place for that. Our late breaking update is BVMPT is going to be the first DCA board to accept credit cards in our public lobby. We're going to start this on July 1st. We will still direct licensees to use the Breeze kiosk in our lobby, because if they use the Breeze kiosk in our lobby, their renewal is updated immediately. If they give us a credit card at the front counter after July 1st for their renewals, it's still going to be the paper process. It's just a convenience for them to be able to use a credit card instead of a cash or personal check or another type of certified money order or check. So because we have the credit cards, it doesn't take the place of Breeze, the immediate renewal process. It's just a convenience for them. We will update you. Go ahead, Tammy.
Is there going to be additional charge for the licensees to use the credit card?
No. In our budget, and when you look at our budget and you see the line by line item, if you see an item on there called Elevon, that is actually the credit card company, and we will be paying fees based on any type of licensee or applicant using a credit card, whether it's in Breeze or in our public lobby. So we will never charge that fee.
Oh,
The
so
board-
it's even charged on Breeze? Or, well, we get charged basically when they use the Breeze system via credit card.
That is correct. Anytime a credit, so the board basically pays that convenience for our applicants and licensees. The other thing that Elaine had talked about, the OCM report, I will have an update for you in August, and we will give you an idea of everything that's been implemented, that's going to be implemented, or that there was some kind of change. Jen went through the report page by page, and she noted some changes with some of the numbers that they were reporting on the processing times. She had some concerns. She's already contacted our OCM analyst and asked to have a meeting so they can clarify the numbers in that report. Now the good thing, we're going to talk about the licensing statistics. And in the information that was sent out to you, I give you an executive summary. Some of the highlights that I want you to be aware of is that starting on page 13, I included the daily totals for calls that come in every single day, January through March. I also highlighted on those tables the longest times and the shortest hold times that people are experiencing when they call into the board. When you look at the statistics for the incoming calls answered, we're doing a great job. And you'll start seeing that. Gabby started with us. Gabby, when did you start with us? Okay, Gabby started with us on August 31st. Oh, October 30th. Okay, so Gabby was here with us in October. And you'll see January, when you look at the number of incoming telephone calls, if you look on page 3, in January, we had 18,283. So Gabby and Jeremiah, who many of you met yesterday, were the only two people we had answering the phones. So we actually we only answered 14% of the calls that came into the board in January. In February, we had only 7,629 calls that came into the board. And again, there were 3 critical things that we had happen in January. We had the fee increase. We were still dealing with the closure of Brightwood, and we had the DOJ letter. So we had a lot of phone calls, and we had Leanna, our supervisor, have the front reception staff kind of do a little tick sheet on what type of calls were coming in. So those were the 3 top calls that we were identifying for that month. And as you see, in February, it's declined, and in March, it's declined. So we're doing really good. The other challenge that we have, and we're probably going to talk about this for a long time, is our equivalency applications.
I know Jen has been doing a great job. As we talked about in the first executive summary, we can only have our staff service analysts, our SSA positions, working on the equivalency applications due to the equivalency of trying to figure out their education and their experience. So we have 3 people that work on those equivalency applications. And as you know, we lost 2 of our SSAs, Vicky Saavedra and Siki. Vicky's here. She took another position with the board, thank God. And we've got our new people that we're training. We were able to promote Jessica Wagner into one of the SSA positions. Jessica was one of our PT2s that handled the PT programs, the psychiatric technician program. So Jen's team, as far as her equivalency, is doing great. The backlogs are getting better. Jen, I'm going to call on you real quick. What are you guys in for equivalency? She just gave me a really good number, and it was too late to put it in. Jen, thanks.
Hello. What was the question?
The equivalencies. You just gave me a really good number. What was it?
So for online, we are now currently working on October 2018. So we kind of cleared up a 3-month, well, it's a longer backlog, but we cleared up 3 months just with the 2 new SSA staff. And thankful to Suba, who is our basically like lead SSA because she's been there the longest. She trained them and is doing a fabulous job. And for in-house, we are working on June of last year. So the in-house ones, of course, we're going to work second before the online. So I did want to tell them to stop for a second on the in-house for like a week, and that's why they only did the online, because there's not as many. So I wanted to kind of jump that number up so we weren't behind 1 year for both of them.
Any questions on the equivalencies? I know that's been our biggest challenge in the OCM report, and that's something Jen and I are going to work with the OCM report. They have some suggestions. Some of them are regulatory changes, and as you know, those take a long time, but those are things that we really want to consider. So that's information that we'll be bringing forward to the executive committee on a month-to-month basis. And as we move forward, as the board meets quarterly, we will update that information with you as well.
I just want to make a comment about these, the call handling. You know, I'm only going to be on this board for 8 years. I didn't think I'd ever see these kind of numbers. This is fabulous. You guys are doing a great job on this. This is just it has such a outward reflection on the board. When people try to call us and can't get through, it's just almost become a reputation. I'm so happy to see these numbers, and I thank you very much for all of your hard work.
Another thing that was really cool that we did is we have one of our retired annuitants that works in our education section, Jeffrey Durham, and we asked him to record the outgoing message for the board. So when you call the board, it's a male voice, and it tells you that, you know, the options have changed because they have. And the other thing that we did, we felt would be really good, is that we gave the enforcement division phone number right off the bat. So if somebody was calling into the board, they had an enforcement question, they were waiting in the queue until they got a live body. So we figured, let's give them the phone number right up front, push them over to enforcement, and then just deal with the calls that were actually coming in from the applicants and licensees that had to do with the licensing process. So we felt that that was helpful. We secret shop them. We sit in Elaine's office and we call them on the iPhone. The timer's running. Cool. So once we've gotten through, so from the time we hit call until, I know we've done it to Kristen and we've done it to Jeremiah, randomly they answer the phone. It's been 3 minutes once you get through the voice thing. Now that we have Jeff's new voice, we shortened our phone tree because there was a lot of information. We shortened our phone tree, so we want to secret shop. And I would actually encourage the board members to secret shop and call our, I'm serious, secret shop, I'll give you the phone number, 916-263-7800. Gabby knows about this. She'll go back and tell her coworkers. But secret shop them. And the first time Elaine and I did, I got Kristen. I said, hi, Kristen, it's Vicki. She goes, well, how can I help you? I said, no, Kristen, it's Vicki. You know, she's like, oh. I said, we're just kind of checking in on you. I go, this is fabulous. I didn't even wait on hold. So then Elaine thought that was hilarious. So she had to call in. She got Jeremiah. Oh, hi, yeah, we heard Kristen. You just called Kristen. So, you know, they talk. It's great. It's changing. And the team that we have up there, they're amazing. They get along. You'll meet Lydia in November, and we'll have our final staff person. So you will meet the rest of the team in November when we're here in Sacramento. So that's kind of what's going on with licensing. Any questions?
No, but maybe we'd like to have the staff that's here come up, introduce themselves, and tell a little bit about what they do.
I'm sure they'd love to.
I mean, I'm sure the board members would like to hear.
You guys want to come up in the microphone? Just go ahead and give your name and Lauren. Lauren's more of our veteran, but we didn't tell you had to do this. Sorry, guys.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Lauren Gardner. I am an evaluator, and I started with the board January 31st of 2018.
Wow.
What schools do you cover?
Oh, I cover schools C through F.
No, that's good.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Lori Barnes. I just started with the board on last month, April 8th. I'm actually taking over the fingerprint desk and also helping evaluations with P through R.
Hi, my name is Gloria Hatcher. I'm fairly new to the board. I started on May 1st. I'll be covering the S through Z desk as an evaluator.
Gentlemen.
Hi, my name is Gabby. I started with the board on October 31st, and I cover front desk and phones.
Hi, my name's Tony Parker. I started with the board on May 1st, cover A through B.
A through B of
Yeah.
what?
Schools.
Oh, schools. I was like, A through B? There's a lot.
We
of
sing
A
the
through
alphabet
B.
song every morning, and no. Sorry, we forgot to tell you the important stuff.
Thank you so much for having the staff come up here. Especially when we're in Sacramento, I would encourage our leadership to please continue to invite the staff and invite the staff from, all ranks, so that way different individuals understand what we all have to overview and what are the requirements, and that way there's some transparency. And I think it's really important to improve the team efficiency, building the team. And you guys are doing a great job, Elaine and Vicky and Jen, all the new staff that just came here, welcome on board. And we look forward to meeting more staff.
We'll bring them.
And actually, if you don't mind, I will, of course, remind the board that since they're being webcast, I'm confident that several staff members back at the office are watching, so.
Yes, but we can't watch them.
That's hilarious. Okay, I'm bringing their pictures. No, well, yes.
Delighted to give you the opportunity to interact with staff.
Yeah, we don't get to hear from them. If they're watching us, we don't get to hear from them. This is nice to be able to hear from the staff.
Okay.
And especially see the faces of those who are doing wonderful work.
We'll have Candace bring an enforcement contingency also.
Good. Any other board members have comments?
Just a comment around the great job of bringing a reflection of California and what it's best about California's diversity on your team. I think many departments should take a page out of this book and make sure that we continue to do that work and recruit and retain individuals, and also, most importantly, make sure that they are encouraged to grow in their positions and continue to move on within this government that we have in California. So, thank you.
Any questions for Vicky? Seeing none. I'd just like to say thank you for coming to the staff. The phones, it's amazing. The work that you guys have done to get the wait time on the phones down, the work that you've done to work through and get the applicants, the turnaround time for the licenses renewals. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. So,
I'm going to stay here for the strategic in case they have questions.
okay. So we'll go to 17, Strategic Outreach Committee.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Strategic Outreach Committee met early March. We went over a number of items. Some of these happen to have been bullet pointed in the EO's report. We don't have any particular action items. Just would like to highlight a couple areas. We're now live with both Twitter and Facebook. We have content being uploaded. One of the considerations, the recommendations would be to continue to promote the visibility of this particular board. And we would like to suggest both a collective and individual outreach effort, not only by the board, but us as individuals. If we have constituents or groups in our local geographic areas, we should be encouraged and free to reach out, communicating the work that this board is doing. Other than that, a couple other recommendations, YouTube channel, some of the various outreach efforts that we could contain or encapsulate, perhaps licensing and enforcement overview, such as what we get on the discipline day of the board meetings, if that could be subject to a YouTube video or perhaps comments by the executive team or the board president. Other than that, I don't think we have any action items here. I'd like to thank Ms. Carpenter for her work. She's really a social media whiz. And of course, Ms. Lyman has been a wonderful help to us.
Can I share some things that we do for the social outreach?
Yeah, certainly.
Everybody, the board members, and it's also included in the binder at the back of the room. You each had presents on the dais. There's a pocket directory for the California legislature. Our EO has good connections over the Capitol and was able to get these for us. The next thing, these are bookmarks. I would make them for my family at Easter. Not these ones, obviously, but just the idea where we wanted to do something for Nurses Week. So we worked with our digital print office, and they are absolutely amazing. And we wanted something to put in our lobby for nurses when they came in during Nurses Week. So we have a basket in our lobby, and we had a series of the bookmarks. I think they looked great. Our digital people did a great job. And on the back, there are some motivational and inspirational sayings that we also provided. So these were put in the lobby during Nurses Week. We also gave a set to our NECs, thanking them for being our nurses. They were handed out at the Directors Forum. Our vice president also spoke at a conference, and we gave her a care package and gave these to her. They don't have a date on them, so we can use them every year. And the price to have these printed and made, it was $60 for 500. So I think we got a lot of bang for our buck out of spending $60. We will continue to use our digital print shop for our outreach when we come up with things. Again, you know, as Ms. Yamaguchi talked about our pull-up banner, that was another thing that was designed by our digital print shop. I said, hey, can you come up with something? And they said, absolutely. I did give Mr. Durkin and Ms. Carpenter a sample of a program or a handout that we took to the West Hills Community College. I know it sounds bad. I didn't give them to all the board members because they were like $1 each, and you know I'm cheap. And these are things that we will give out at the licensing fairs, and it talks about BVMPT. So in their folders, you will see those. Not that, those actually from NCSB, and there's another one in there. She's going to hold it up for us to see. That's the one. Yeah, and that is something that actually matches our pull-up banner. And we took stuff from the website to talk about, you know, what an LVN does, what a PT does. It talks about the licensing process. It has the process map of how you get your license for each of those professions. And again, this is something that we're going to use at the community college, and it does talk about the discipline process. So that is kind of a comprehensive, nice-looking book that we can hand out at any types of recruiting events, recruiting for LVNs and PTs. We were talking with Dr. Mountain about possibly having an event at Sac City College, and we're going to continue speaking with her and try to rope in some other the healing arts and have some kind of event at the college. So again, we'll let our strategic planning committee know of anything that we're able to do. The last thing that was in the little goodie bag that I gave you, these are actually free brochures that we get from NCSBN. I chose the topics that I felt would be helpful. These are displayed in our lobby. The booklet that you guys have, the wire booklet, we also have those. These are free resources. So anytime we need them, we're able to actually get them from NCSBN and put them in our lobby, take them out to any of our licensing fairs. And if any of you are attending some kind of event, we'd be more than happy to provide these for you to take to those events.
Hello? Oh. I just wondered, does NCSBN send these to you? Because I've never seen these before. They're amazing.
They're free.
And I wonder if we can somehow let schools know. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, like the one on substance use
I know.
disorder and
I know. They're
use
fabulous.
of social media.
Yes.
These are so valuable
I
for
know, they're amazing.
VN students.
I'll send you the link.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
That
and
would be so awesome.
We can have Sue Ellen, our NEC, we could have her send the link for the directors because she's got that
Yes.
email list of all the directors. I'll work with Sue Ellen on getting that link, and we'll have to say we didn't give it to him because NCSBN is going to say, Elaine, what are you doing? We have to get the information out. You're right.
We're tripling our print budget already.
Our print budget, yeah, but they're fabulous. They're in our lobby, and I ordered like 200 of each one.
Right.
It's got the order information on the back.
Okay.
That's right.
But you know what? We will still have Sue Ellen send the link and have them,
Yeah,
let
if
them
I
know.
don't know. I assume most of the other directors probably don't know either.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that you guys didn't know that.
And actually, since
Seen them before.
That's cool. They're good.
actually getting the link would be better anyways, because there are other things.
Other information.
Which are not necessarily, apologies. I know, I'm sorry. Which, we didn't think were immediately relevant to BVNPT, but for those of you who are, for example, you who have RN programs, you might find some things for those as well. So we'll definitely send that link out.
They have some really nice posters too. I'm going to have our digital print actually mount them on foam board and put them in our lobby. They talk about substance abuse and social media. Free posters, yeah, they're amazing.
Great resource. Thank you.
It's a great resource.
Vicky, I just want to, Vicky and the outreach committee, congratulations. We are finally like moving on the dinosaur age and we're online. And I'm really grateful and I'm thankful. I already follow you on Facebook. I'm not much of a Twitter person, but okay. Some people, the younger people are, and that's okay. And I'm glad that you guys chose to do, something more modern like Twitter, and then something more, like oldie but goodie Facebook, and a mature. Thank you, Elaine. I was looking for something that didn't say old, but okay. Mature sounds great. I encourage you to look at the Board of Accountancy. They do they're not innovative in their way that they post on Facebook, but I think what they're posting is really good.
Okay.
And so, for example, on their image, they say, save time, renew online. So as we are, during our strategic meeting, we talked about we want more people to be using our online resources. Well, that could be the header. So look at that. Another thing they have is we're hiring. So they post that they're hiring. I also like they post their meetings. So for example, they met yesterday and they took a picture of the boardroom and this is what they said. CBA staff is working hard to get ready for today's board meeting, which starts at 9 in Sacramento. Members of the public are encouraged to attend. Agenda and meeting materials are, and then they put the link. And why is this important? It's important because we want the public to really be informed of when we're meeting. I know that we put it on our website, but people are not on websites, on their phone. People are on Facebook. People are on Twitter. And so if we're posting, reminding them, putting the link of the live stream, then guess what? We might get a few to come online. So like I said, it's not that they're super innovative, but it's that they're posting valuable information that I encourage our board of vocational nurses to psychiatric technicians, don't want to leave anyone behind, to really look at what they're posting, because sometimes we try to be very, very creative, and then we forget to post the things that are like, business, like much needed information. In addition, I wanted to say that as we move forward and changing in strategy, to really be looking at other boards, how they're doing things. I heard really good things of the Board of Accountancy when it comes to budget, when it comes to meetings, when it comes to, how they review enforcement, and I'm just putting this out because I actually had dinner with someone from the board, and I was like, this is really interesting to be, to be collaborating with another board member, and I encourage the staff here to think about having lunch or, with somebody lateral on that board to see how they're doing things. So as we move forward, we can be learning best practices. And not that we need to replicate everything they're doing, but just learn what's working for them. And I don't know how big the board is, like how many licensees they have. So it might not be applicable because our board is 150,000?
130.
130. I mean, we have a big board. So I just wanted to say, like, I am very thankful for the outreach and that we have now have a presence online, and I encourage us to be looking for best practices among our colleagues and other boards, DCA boards, and thank you. I just want to say thank you.
You are going to actually see a preview, or it's the actual discipline YouTube video. You're going to see it today. Candace is going to present that. The NECs have already met with our communications, and they're doing a video. Jen and I met with our DCA. Ben DC is our communications liaison, and they're already starting to do a video for licensing, and it's going to be on the equivalency process.
Oh, nice.
So these are things that we've already met, and Ben worked with Jay. They did an amazing job. You're going to love the video. And we have to debut it before we send it out. So as soon as, after this meeting, I can post the link on our Facebook page. So as you guys were sitting in our strategic planning meeting on Wednesday, I did make a post about you on Facebook. Members are working on a strategic plan. They have fabulous ideas. I think Alita saw it.
Saw it and reposted.
Oh, thank you.
I saw the post
So I was
also.
talking about, I was sitting there thinking, I go, oh my gosh, I haven't posted anything on Facebook. So I sat there and made a post while we were sitting there. I hope I wasn't too rude, but I wanted to put something on Facebook. Prior to the board meeting, I did post that we were having the board meetings, the link to the agenda. So these are things that I'm doing. I finally know how to tweet. And Sue Ellen, our nurse, NEC said, what's a tweet? I said, I'm just learning how to tweet. I'm going to figure it out. So we're learning these things. I figured a lot of people can do it. I can do it. So these are great suggestions. These are things that I think you planted these seeds in my brain already. So these are the things that we're doing. I'm not as good on Twitter as I am on Facebook. You're limited to the number of characters. So I had this big, long, fabulous tweet about the board meeting, and it said you're 100 over. I'm like, oh, man. So I had to do a little bit of cutting. So I'm learning. So it's fun. And pardon me?
I said there's a limit on
Oh, yeah, there's
Twitter?
like 140. Yes.
140.
See?
I didn't know that.
Welcome to
I
my
have
world.
Twitter, but I don't know how to use it.
See? Thank you. Yeah, same. So it's emerging. I love the idea of networking with other boards and looking on their websites and seeing what they're doing. It's amazing. So Alita sent me a link this morning about a song about nurses.
Thank you, Carol.
Oh, was that from Carol?
Came
Thank
from
you.
Carol.
She's the one who turned me on to Z-Dog.
Oh, he's fabulous. Yeah. So please, when you see something inspirational, informational, send it to me. I look at every day we get it's called Eclipse from DCA, and it has different stories about different things going on throughout the nation. So I usually take something from there, sort of related to nursing or sort of related to the world. They were talking about measles. They're talking about, Elaine talked about the nurse that was running the marathon and got disqualified because she didn't have a skirt. So these are things that, I have to have some humor too, because what nurses and psychiatric technicians do, it's an amazing job, and they feel sometimes it's thankless. So we want to remind them that we're thinking about them, and we want to motivate them. We want to inspire them, and that's from their board that licenses them. And I do put things, close to renewals. I did a tweet about, make sure you go online to Breeze and get your renewal done. So those are things that I do at the end of the month to make sure our licensees are getting their things done on time.
That's nice.
Any other questions or suggestions?
I have one question.
Yes.
In the videos, who's doing the videos? Have we thought about asking some of the staff from that division to do it?
Yes.
Not just managers?
Oh, no, it's staff. You are going to like this. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised during the Enforcement Division report. And that's a great suggestion because Jen's sitting here and she's going to be working on the next one. And Lauren is an actress. So I think we're going to have a lot of volunteers.
At the staff, so.
Yes. Volunteered, voluntold. So I think
Maybe
we're going to have a good.
They probably are saying,
"Oh, sorry,
I never want to go back to a meeting because they just put me on the spot."
They're fabulous. They're such good team players. Like, yeah, I'll do it. And that's all we hear. And it's amazing to work at BVMPT.
Lauren has her own YouTube channel.
Who?
Lauren.
Hi. So I guess I'm gonna have to start looking.
I'll send you the
watch
link.
the kids stuff on YouTube because I don't know how to do YouTube very well. So the grandbaby shows me.
Right.
So I'm just watching Mother Goose.
We will actually send you, after the debut of the YouTube video, Elaine will send out the link to each board member. It will be posted on Facebook, but you will get an individual email with that link. So we would love you to share it far and wide. And that's something that we can share with the unions, that they can put on their website. So these are things, as far as our strategic outreach, our public outreach, these are things that need to happen. So if you know people that would enjoy that link, send it to them.
Can I ask one question? Through the strategic outreach, are we getting like email addresses when we have the meetings?
We have discussed so many times how much more efficient it would be to have all of our licensees submit their email addresses. But we've been told that it's a difficult task, or that it's here, but it's not there.
But I'm just talking about those that attend, when you guys hold your strategic outreach. They're like the schools or the directors or whoever attends that would like information blasted out in an email blast that Vicky could do, or when we have new videos out, that an email blast could go out to them.
We haven't had anyone attend, actually, but that's a great idea.
Ironically, we need to do some outreach for the outreach committee.
We do have a listserv, which is a compilation of 4,400 emails collected from I don't know when, but I just know we have a listserv. So again, that's another avenue for us to use as far as getting out our message. So we just have Sean, do a quick email blast. The other thing that I'm looking at is talking to the people in OIS about being able to extrapolate all the email addresses from those licensees who have submitted them. So I'll have to see what that's going to entail and how long it'll take to get that. So it's on my list.
Lita, you had comments?
Oh, no, I just had another thought, because these two were discussing something that occurs to me that might be part of strategic outreach.
Yeah, I think the idea that I was hoping that we could look at for future, every time we rotate our meetings, maybe before those meetings, we could have some outreach to identify some stalwart LVNs and have them come and be recognized in front of this board. Because that would be a fantastic thing for, at least from, in my opinion. And I think we could put that on social media as well.
Yes.
And MPTs as well. My apologies.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That would
Be our first one. I love it.
I love that idea.
It's a great idea.
Hey, it could be worse.
That's a great spotlight.
That's it. Plus spotlight.
Yes. Any other comments or?
Sorry, I forgot. Along with our staff, I think we should do some spotlights. Now that we're on social media, we can do some spotlight on some of the staff too.
Oh, that is a good idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when people are calling, they can see who they're talking to.
That's a cool.
It puts a human face to on the other line, and I think both parties, the staff and the nurses and PT, will understand that this is a human conversation and should be civil and professional and.
Yeah, nice touch.
Jen actually took her staff to the directors forum yesterday, and they were able to meet this wonderful group of people. So now they understand who has their schools when they submit their graduation stuff on the cloud.
Nice.
So they got to see all these bright,
Smart.
smiling faces yesterday at the directors forum. And from what I understand, the feedback I got, they did an amazing job. They do a PowerPoint presentation. All the team members were introduced, and it was fabulous. It was kind of cool, huh, Tammy?
They didn't think to bring that PowerPoint presentation to us so we could see what they presented?
We can do that.
I'll send it to you.
But it's the presentation of it that makes it so wonderful, because we have some people that do an outstanding job presenting. So if that's something for a future agenda item, that's something that
Yes.
we would love to consider and bring forth to the board.
I think that would be great.
Okay.
Can do.
Just listening, it's almost as if we had a brainstorming session. And the fact that we've got staff visiting and observing and contributing, we want to make sure there are avenues for whatever is brainstormed to rise to the level of a suggestion. The more we know, the more input we get, the better we can do what we do. So please, if you saw something, thought of something, or you said, I wonder why, say something about it. Thank you.
Lastly, they're not shy. They will bust into Jen's office and let her know.
That is very good.
That's why she picked them.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to thank Vicki. She has taken our vision and run with it, and she's doing a great job.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the staff. I mean, it's amazing. It is 12, so should we break for lunch now?
Why don't we go with the Ledge Committee and see how we get? I think we planned for 12:30 for lunch, so I'm not sure that everything's set up and ready for you guys yet.
Okay.
There's only two.
Yeah, we only have 2 items.
You should just finish.
You okay? Yeah.
Why don't we just eat through it?
Yeah, I'll have the lunch brought to the room, so.
True, we got 2 items left.
Yeah. Let's conclude.
So,
But just take your lunch with you.
Otherwise, we're eating.
so where's the lunch is here or not here?
They're not here yet, but I'm gonna have them, when they do arrive, I'm gonna have them brought here to the hearing.
I think we should just,
I think we can go
through.
I don't think we can do that here.
Yeah. Sure you can.
Yes, please.
Yes.
What do you guys want to do first?
The video.
Want to do the video?
Yeah, let's do the video.
While he's setting it up, I can give you some kind of background on it.
You guys like to do a break for a second?
I can, why don't you start setting up, I can tell them a little bit about any of this. Mic.
Rush out of here?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Maybe we can, I've been like,
Okay, so thank you, Madam President and members of the board. So this idea kind of started with some brainstorming in Elaine's office about a way to make the overview more modern, more accessible to everyone. I think it was actually Vicki Lyman's idea to make a video. So I reached out to Ben DC, our public affairs officer with DCA. He's actually has a very extensive experience as an on-camera reporter and producer in the TV news industry. He asked me what I was thinking for the video. I told him that I wanted it to be more casual, conversational, something relatable for the students. He took that idea and ran with it. We organized a roundtable discussion, including me and several staff members from other units in enforcement. Jen Johnson, our licensing manager, graciously offered to go through the live scan process on camera, so we filmed her doing that. We actually even went out and filmed some nursing students working in a clinical settings to get some background. Ben recruited a DCA's own Mike Sanchez here, who actually did all the filming of the video and the editing, I believe, most of the editing. I really want to thank Elaine, Vicki, and Candace for being so supportive through the process. I want to thank the fellow staff members who participated, my fellow enforcement managers who allowed them the time to help out with this. As Vicki mentioned, it's going to be on our YouTube channel, Facebook. We've even talked about email blasts out to all the schools. We just really wanted information on the applicant licensing process if you have a conviction history, in a way that the students would have more access to that information. So we're going to show you the video now, and I really hope you like it. Thank you.
I made videos for myself.
Recently, a group of licensing experts from the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians sat down to have a frank conversation.
Most people get in trouble for what they don't disclose, not what they do disclose.
They were talking about one part of the application for a license that worries some people the most: the record of conviction form.
Our job as a state agency is to protect the public.
In the next few minutes, we'll take an unflinching look at the record of conviction form. We'll answer the most commonly asked questions, and we'll tell you what the people who process your applications want you to know about it.
We understand that everyone has a past.
The basic question is, has you ever been convicted of any crime?
Everyone who applies for a license to be a vocational nurse or a psychiatric technician in the state of California must fill out the record of conviction form. Having a conviction doesn't mean you can't get your license. This form is your chance to alert the board to any crime on your record. That includes any felony, but also any misdemeanor, even traffic violations where drugs or alcohol were involved, or where you had to pay a fine of more than $1,000. If you pled guilty or no contest before you were convicted, you still need to report it.
The biggest misconception I see in my end of it for reviewing applicants is that they think they don't have to disclose a conviction that's been dismissed or expunged.
Anytime they were arrested or convicted, it's going to come back.
Even a conviction that happened years ago in another state may not prevent you from getting a license, but it will still show up on your record. So unless you are convicted in a juvenile court, there is no time limit or expiration date on a conviction when it comes to reporting it.
The background check is so thorough.
What makes the background check so thorough? You'll be getting a live scan as part of your application to be a vocational nurse or psychiatric technician. A live scan is a record search with an electronic fingerprint. And when you get your print taken, you'll need to check both the Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation boxes on the paperwork. In other words, the live scan you purchase must include searches by both of those agencies. Between the two, they will be able to access any record of any conviction you've ever had, including a conviction that was later expunged.
on the record of conviction form, they're signing that document under penalty of perjury, and any false statement given in accordance with that document could lead to an applicant's denial.
What if you have a conviction to disclose? The record of conviction form will give you a chance to explain what happened, how long ago it happened, and anything you've done since to demonstrate it won't happen again, any evidence of rehabilitation. You'll be asked for certified court records and certified police reports, and you'll be able to submit anything else you think the board should consider in your case.
And what better time to display your integrity than the nursing process? Because that's extremely important.
If they're honest and upfront with us in the first place, oftentimes once they provide the required information, there will still be a proof for licensure.
What if you've got a criminal conviction on your record that you don't disclose? It will delay your application. You'll get a letter from the board asking you to submit all the required legal documents anyway and the explanation for what happened. But you'll also be asked to explain why you didn't report that conviction up front. The board will consider everything. If your license is denied, you have the right to appeal within 60 days. And if your appeal isn't successful, you'll have the right to apply for a license again in a year.
There's no need to worry. Just go ahead on and apply. If it's something that you want to do and you want to become an LVN in the state of California, we always encourage you to apply. Don't let your past stop you from achieving this career, because it's a wonderful field.
So if it's really a passion of yours like that, it's something you feel you're called to do, you should absolutely go out there and try to attain it.
We need LVNs. We need nurses. We need honest people. We need people who are willing to take care of sick patients.
Others, right?
Others, right.
Yeah.
We need that compassion.
Well done.
Nice. So those were Tricia Perry, who's one of our senior AGPA analysts, Tara Schuster, who's one of our special investigators, Dominique Morris, who's an office tech, who pretty much opens all the complaints and parses them out, Mr. J. Did I get everyone? Yeah. And of course, the hands of Jen Johnson. Always.
Can I ask a question? This may be this comes up fairly often. I've heard this question many times. Why do they wait until after the completion of the school before they do the background test? Wouldn't it would be easier for the applicants if the test was done up front and they were disqualified and not spend a year in school or 2 years?
Well, the process is actually started earlier now. At the same time they submit their evaluation information to be approved for licensure, that same unit is also starting collecting the enforcement documentation. They've already gone through the schooling by the time that they get to the board, obviously, to give us their conviction history.
And that's why they ask, why couldn't they have been screened prior and then be disqualified and go find another career, since they're not going to be able to pass the background checks?
Well, I guess we would say that we wouldn't even know if it was appropriate to check their background until we know they're actually qualified to be an LVN and be ready to test. I mean, it's almost a catch-22, I guess, in a sense.
I can actually address this.
Please do.
So we have 4 what we call information sessions a year at our school. Every single school does it. And when the students come for the information session, many of them are still in their prerequisites. We walk through what will prevent you from getting a license. I actually go and do that part myself. And I'm very specific about what can stop you from getting a license. And we encourage people, if you have convictions of a certain type, and I usually bring up like welfare fraud. That's one that I know for the BRN, it's a tough one. They really look down on that. Drug convictions, DUIs. We bring up all of this and talk about if you've done rehabilitation, if you have your paperwork in line. These are things that can move you forward. But you're coming into this program knowing full well that you may not be able to get a license. So I know other schools are doing the same thing, but we're very clear about what the parameters are.
Do you think the for-profit schools are giving their students the same consideration that you do? I mean, you're at a public city college.
I'm getting a yes from you.
She's over there saying yes. I think all
Good.
directors feel a burden to make
Thank
sure
you.
that prospective students know that, because we don't want them to, part of especially for the chancellor's office, part of what they look at is that go to work rate. So they keep track of how many of our students who graduate from the LVN program actually go to work as an LVN, and that reflects on our program. And so we don't want people coming through that aren't interested really or can't become a nurse. But we did have somebody come through who had an ankle bracelet that we didn't know about, so. Stuff happens.
Full disclosure.
No, she did.
Ankle bracelet? Wow.
No, I think she got her license eventually. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
So,
What do we want
do
to know?
we want to break for lunch, or do we want to?
Well, I don't think the next item would take too long, right, Ms. Turner?
I don't think so. That'd be quick. Up to you. What do the board members?
I would vote to power through this
Yeah.
and be done.
Power through.
But we're 2 items away.
Power through. I would have gone out for lunch.
They're just gonna bring a food here anyway.
Okay.
A real lunch for a change.
So, okay. So let's go to Ledge Reg Committee.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So the Ledge Reg Committee met on March 25th. John Dearkin and I are the committee members. Did you get did I need to repeat it? All right, yes. The Legislation Regulations Committee met on March 25th of this year. John Dearkin and I are the board members who are part of the committee. Our EO was president, Elaine Yamaguchi, and it was fully staffed. The entire meeting focused on AB 2138, and that's a bill by Chu. And as many of you know who were present at the April 30th special meeting, that is a bill that became law that provides that if a conviction is 7 years, more than 7 years old, it can't be used to deny or to revoke or to suspend a license unless it's substantially related to the profession. So we received some background on the rulemaking process and how that would be implemented into the vocational nurses and psychiatric technician regulations. There is a process for that. We have to approve those regulations, and they go through. They will be looked at by an administrative law group after we sent it forward. And so we looked at it, and we did add some things. First of all, we were given some options by DCA Legal, and these options were presented to all the boards under the Division of Consumer Affairs. So it's not just our board, but many other boards, because they have to address the same issue. And our goal was to come up with what is considered the crimes that would be substantially related to the profession. We were also required to come up with a criteria for what constitutes rehabilitation, so that there would be more standards that we could look to help us make those decisions. All right. So we were given a couple of options. The committee chose option 2 for substantially related convictions, and it chose option 1 for a rehabilitation criteria. The crimes that we believe that were substantially related are child abuse, sex offender, assault and battery, crimes involving lewd conduct, driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and we had the suggestion from Mr. Dicking about adding elder abuse.
So after we went through, we had various questions about the language of the proposed options, and then we reached a consensus, and we came up with a motion, and that motion was ultimately adopted by the board at its April 30th, 2019 special board meeting, and that was to accept the DCA legal recommendations and to implement regulatory language for substantial relationship criteria for crimes and a rehabilitation criteria listing, option 2 and option 1, and adding elder abuse to that, right? And so that was the extent of the meeting. We did not discuss any other proposed bills or any other matters relating to any other proposed bills. So that meeting was adjourned at 2:40 p.m. That was it.
Okay. Do any
Any
board
questions? No? Okay.
members? Seeing none?
Yes.
Ken?
Just want to accept the report.
Huh?
I just want to accept the report, or do we need to? No.
We don't need to, even though there's a motion in it? No, because we've
because
already
you
voted.
did so on April 30th.
Okay. All right, well, that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions for Cheryl? Seeing none. So then we'll go to the Enforcement Division.
Hello. I hope that you all enjoyed the debut of our first video. We are in the process of considering and looking at options to do more videos. So it's been exciting, and thank you to Jay for heading up that. He did a great job. All right, you all have a copy of my report, so I will go through it and hit some of the highlights. With regard to staffing, we have 2 vacant positions. There's one in the discipline unit that's now been redirected. We have collected applications for that. Those are in the process of being reviewed, and we'll be scheduling interviews very soon. The second vacancy is in the licensee and applicant case review unit. That individual, that duty statement has been rewritten a bit, and that individual that's coming in is actually going to help us take our expert witness program to the next level. So we're looking at training, we're looking at expanding our pool of expert witnesses. So that's really exciting. I have to apologize, there was a snafu. So the quarterly enforcement report statistics were provided to you this morning. I'll go through and hit some of the highlights from that. Overall, what I've noticed this time is that all of our statistics are really headed in the right direction, which is encouraging. One of the things that, we're constantly monitoring and looking at those as a measure of kind of how well we're doing overall. And of course, they don't tell the whole story, but they are a snapshot and very, very important. One of the things that I keep landing on is the fact that I really feel like all of the work that's been done by the staff, the enforcement monitor, the Division of Investigation over the past couple of years or so, they're really gaining a foothold now. And so I think that it's onward and upward from here. So very grateful and excited about that. Of note, with regard to performance measure number 3, that is the total number of case investigations completed. That's actually up 127 cases from the previous quarter. That is substantial. With regard to performance measure number 4, that is the average days to complete a discipline case. And that is an area where we have historically struggled, and I know that we're not alone in that. That's common amongst a lot of the boards. but that number is 710 days for quarter 3. And that is significant because it represents the lowest number of average days to complete a discipline case since the year 16-17 quarter 3. Division updates. In May, I had the opportunity to attend the National Council of State Boards of Nursing Basic Board of Nursing Investigation Training. That was a wonderful training. I'm excited to put into practice some of the things that I've learned, use some of the resources that are available that we learned about. So looking forward to that. There are the unit updates. If you have any questions about those, I'm happy to answer that. We are in compliance with our AB 1229 mandate. The next meeting with the Division of Investigation will be on May 29th. We're in the process of putting together the final information for the monitor report, which is due to the legislature on July 1. That's especially gratifying because all of the news is good news. So some of the other things that I'd like to highlight, we continue to engage in ongoing efforts to enhance the division by implementing new procedures, as well as reviewing and revising our current procedures. And some of those efforts include review and update of the procedure manuals and the duty statements for all of the units and all of our positions, conducting regular case review meetings and unit meetings, working with the licensing unit to ensure that the obligations and responsibilities that touch both of those units are universally understood. Some of the specific projects that I want to highlight is recently we were able to establish an account with the LA Superior Court, which allows us to obtain court documents through an online portal. So that cuts off a lot of time when we're requesting court documents. We've expanded the Fast Track program to include all AG offices. And the Fast Track program, just as a recap, that deals with the cases that are going to discipline that are as a result of a conviction. So they're fairly straightforward, and that process was implemented, I don't know, quite some time ago. And it was rolled out initially to just certain offices, and now it's been expanded to include all of the AG offices. Beyond that, we have implemented electronic transmission of those cases to the AG's office via the cloud. And that's really remarkable because it provides for greater security of the case documents. It reduces our timelines. It saves us money. The AGs love it because it is so much more efficient. So it is a win-win all the way around. We're excited to see kind of what ultimately happens with that. We are working to expand the availability of that technology to include transmission of all case referrals for the AG's office, not just the Fast Track, and the transmission of the materials to our expert witnesses. And we were kind of doing an analysis of what that would look like, and it was astonishing to me to see the amount of money that will save us just in a monthly postage bill. So, Vicki mentioned that one of the things that we've done to kind of increase efficiency was that we redid the greeting on the board's voicemail, and they put the enforcement phone number right on there. Another step that we've taken kind of in that similar vein is that we have established dedicated email addresses for the Special Investigations Unit, for the Probation Unit, and for the Complaint Unit. And that's been beneficial because of the fact that when we provide that, a number of staff have access to it. So if a staff member is out of the office and they're receiving emails, it's not sitting there until they get back. I want to say thank you, and I want to commend the Enforcement Division staff for their dedication and their commitment. There have been and continue to be substantial changes within the division. We've been in a period of transition. And for the most part, the staff have been accepting and engaged, and they're just really amazing. They're a remarkable group of people. And I want to say thank you to all of you because I appreciate the positive feedback that we've received. And I'm eager to see continued progress. That is my report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them or try to answer them.
No question?
No?
Hi, thank you so much for the report. If I remember correctly, there was a staff member that was hired as an analyst, like to work on the statistics. How is that going along? How, are there new statistics you're recording or improvement on old ones? I would love to know an update.
All of the above. Actually, her name is Pooja Mohan, and she came in.
Can you repeat that
late
again?
last Pooja Mohan, and she came in. I think it was late last year. She really required very little training. She's incredible. She does pull all of our statistics. I think that that's going to be especially helpful because of going through Sunset Review. She has a very strong grasp of what's important and what we need to do and how the information needs to be collected and so forth. One of the other things that we're doing is each of the unit managers are kind of looking at the information that we have available and determining what do they need in order to monitor their programs better, but also to kind of look at opportunities to improve that. So that is going very well, and we're grateful to have her.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Seeing none, that brings us to thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Where am I? Oops, too far. That brings us to public comment on items not on the agenda. I see. Individuals may appear before the board at this time to discuss items not on the agenda. The board may not discuss or take actions on any item raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place on the agenda of a future meeting. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to suggestions for future agenda items. Individuals may request future agenda items at this time. The board may not discuss or take actions on any matter except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda for a future meeting.
Madam Chair? Only thing that I would recommend for next agenda would be recognition, and hoping we could do that with staff and also LVNs and PTs at the next location that we are meeting at.
Thank you. Any other agenda items? Elaine?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, I want to give the board a preview, I think, for the coming months, really, about our sunset process, as we've spoken about in a variety of the reports today. We are due to come for a sunset review in March of next year. We've been, I think, pretty successful in terms of meeting the obligations from the monitor's report and the other requirements of the sunset bill. But from here, it becomes quite a lot of work. So what we see coming is we'll be starting, actually we already have started amassing the information for our sunset report. The legislative committees have invited us to a special meeting next week to kind of walk through the process as far as the legislature wants to see. The department, of course, is coordinating that with all of the units that are subject to review next year. We've been already pulling together information for the report. So what we anticipate doing first, of course, is pulling together, I think, at least a skeletal draft of the report for you all to see at the August meeting, which would probably most likely be under the executive officer's report. We would need to do some follow-up work with you, but the final draft of the report must be approved by the board at its November meeting so that it can be submitted to the legislature by December. They'll be processing, they'll be sending back specific questions for the board to prepare for our hearing, and then probably the very beginning of March, first or second week of March, we will be at our hearing. So we'll certainly, of course, invite everyone to come for the show and to help out. But at the dais, myself and our executive officers, our executive committee will of course be testifying. And it's quite an involved and intricate process. I think our report will be enormous, just in terms of the sheer amount of work that's been done over the past 2 years. You know, just our monitors report itself is large. Our OCM work is large. We'll have a new strategic plan in place by then, which is large. So I think we have a very robust and I think a very optimistic report to move forward. So you will all be seeing this coming forward. The execs, of course, will see periodic reports every time you meet. We'll be sharing where we are. And then, of course, as I said, we'll have a draft or at least a skeleton in August. And I'd be happy, well, I'm not allowed to ask for questions, right?
Any other agenda items for future?
I would like to schedule in August the substance abuse letter, which Paul Sellers had reviewed. So basically is to increase awareness about this problem that our vocational nurses and psychiatric technicians encounter, and to perhaps move it to a committee that can take on the plan on how to work on this problem. And so basically a discussion, and a letter will be sent out to the board members for the August meeting.
Okay. Any other items? Seeing none, any public comment or future agenda items that public would like to see? Seeing none, that leads us to adjournment. This meeting is adjourned at 12:46.